So let's go. Thank you for coming. This talk is about a story, an interesting story we share with the NERIT team about the migration of Apache Ofbiz under Kubernetes system. And I will introduce this one by presenting first the requirements we used to have in your project that will not change a lot after the migration. The deployment process description quickly. Why was it a requirement to change for our customer? And explain what we did and what blocking points we met and how we did solve them. And maybe open some ideas for the future to help anyone who wants to use Apache Ofbiz into a Docker container system. So, do you see well the screen? There is an image presenting the infrastructure of our application. The application is composed by a load balancer that takes out the entry from the different users on our application and redirects the flow through 4 different applications which are dedicated from specific jobs. The technical one, we add 2 instances of Ofbiz that are dedicated for short jobs, so jobs that are very important but do not take a lot of time to be processed. So that's technical, hard and intense work for our platform. The back, which is the back office for longer jobs and for the back office for us as integrators to do configurations and actions. API are the servers that are dedicated to have responsiveness for API calls to interact with our customer system, and the front, which is for the end user, since we are an e-commerce platform, end user do their purchase on the platform through only this application to allow the max availability for them. Between these 4 servers, we have technical interface, the load balancer, which is in charge to distribute the load through the different pods using one DNS by application. The big one database, which is PostgreSQL 1, which is one single point of failure of the application, where all the living data are. We have to take care of it. If there is no more database, the application is dead. And the cache system, it's a Java messaging service, ActiveMQ, an Apache project that will allow cache management for our application to allow max performance and to avoid to request too much the databases for data that do not evolve a lot into the system. If you have questions about specifics, do not hesitate to interrupt me. I can elaborate more. If it's clear for you, I continue. About the deployment process in NERIT, we like to have our tool to be independent from the customer, to not suffer about the failure of their tools, to be dependent on their needs and technical issues. So for that matter, we try to push at the maximum to use our own Forge, our own source code management, our own deployment tool, and if there is a problem, we can react quickly and solve the problem very quickly. So our deployment process, even if the customer has specific requirements, we keep maximum under our hat to be the more efficient possible. So before Cube, we use GitLab for code versioning. We have our own instance. The customer has a GitHub for the project, and we do the synchronization, but we do not use the GitHub. We just give them the code we are developing, but we keep the deployment, the construction of the application inside our domain. Jenkins for building, testing, unit testing, integration testing, agile deployment, and deployment, building the archive, etc. And before Cube, we add one artifact per application and environment that was constructed and customized with Git config branches. So, to be clear, if I want to deploy a technical in pre-production, I applied configuration branch patches, so I modify the files, the configuration files, and then with Gradle do the D-star, so produce an artifact that was sent through S3 bucket, Amazon S3 bucket, for the hoster, the host company to deploy the system in the infra. So one for technical pre-production, another for API pre-production, etc., etc. So for pre-production, we add 4 artifacts different, and same for production. It was working. It was a bit long to deploy, but was working. I just presented you that. A deployment, what is a deployment? First, we do all integration and unit testing for a production deployment to be sure that there is no regression and everything is fine. For pre-production development, the step before is merging the tasks, the Git branch that are in QA to be deployed. So every current development branches are merged, and with that, integration and unit testing are passed against those branches before deploying to pre-production. So these branches are file configuration, and then we created 4 artifacts that were sent to the bucket. After sending the bucket, we add a webhook to the hosting team to tell them, yes, now the artifacts are sent, you can now do the deployment with your system using a blue-green deployment. I don't know if you know, but and one state we are blue. When they receive the artifact, they deploy the artifact in parallel outside the load balancer, and when these artifacts deployed are running and respond, they shut down the blue one, the other one, and the load balancer takes the rest and redirect the flows to the new instance. Why going into Kubernetes? It's not our desire first. It's a hosting standard for our customer and a new technology for us. The other things is that for a customer, before we were outside of their big infrastructure, there was an account, AWS account that was outside, and they wanted to take us back inside their official AWS account, and due to this migration, it was time to comply to the standards of the customer. So, going to Kubernetes. So the argument that are given to that is it's better to manage the resource and to have easy scalability against the activity of the platform. Resilience, if an app is detected dead, the Kubernetes will restart the application without issue. Why it was an argument? Because before our old hosting company had a very bad didn't detect the problem of the application and do not restart it. That
is a bee attacked by a spider.
Yes. Strange sound. Okay, and like we talked about this noon, the hosting didn't master the infrastructure, and we have to explain to them how to do that work. So with Kubernetes, everything is automatized and should be working seamlessly. Another thing is our container with Ofbiz. It's the first time for us. We like the challenge and avoiding having 4 artifacts for one deployment. It's a good thing to be done. So new tools, new technology, new concepts. So we were eager to discover that. And they said it will be simpler. So I can say today it is simple. It is working well. It happens that sometimes we are debugging into production some behavior with our IDE, with a breakpoint, etc. So before it wasn't possible. So there are some tools that are very powerful with after the migration. But during the migration, there was a lot of pain points, and it was quite a challenge. So, using Solards, let's go. First challenge, what is Docker container? Everybody knows what it is. Continue. So we had one example into Apache Ofbiz code base. It's used for the demo. And starting with that, we created our own Docker file, which is this one, a very simple one. We install the tools we need to debug and to work with it, with the client, the PostgreSQL client. And you see that it's a font, a Chinese font for some PDF rendering that is needed. Creating the folder, copying the distribution that is generated with the Gradient D-star that you may know about, and expose the port that will be accessible, and start the application with the entry point C. It's quite simple. But first issue came here. Some configuration before were made applying different patches by merging the Git branches. And with that way, if we don't want to generate 4 Docker images to be deployed, we needed a way to configure using environment variables. And that was the first pain point we had. We needed to go through every use configuration to make them rely on environment config. And I will show you some example of those configurations to let you understand what kind of work that meant. Property files, that was the simplest challenge. As you can see, it's an example of content properties. This property is defining where do we upload or generate the content when Ofbiz work into the local system. And we wanted to let the control to the hosting company, because they have to be autonomous if they change the location, the moon point of the bucket S3 that is mounted on the application behind. If they decide to mount on another place, for I don't know any reason, they have to have the way to control and to change the environment variable to point to the new place to store. So for that, there is a little syntax we did implement with dollar accolade env et semicolon that explain
Dollar bracket.
Yes. Thank you. That says that please go to see in this environment variable, and if not present, you just use the default value just after. So we went through every properties file into the application and do where it's needed these modifications. Some of the example of property file we did modified into our framework application. After that, we needed to modify not property file but XML ones, which are less standard and read by Ofbiz itself. And using the same notation, we did configurable those XML, entity engine, service engine, etc. to allow the configuration by environment variable with the entity engine for the database. Same issue if they change the password of the application of the users who access to the database, they have to have the power to change it themselves. They do not need to ask the developer to make a change. For those to be working, we needed to change the framework at some place to allow the usage of the C syntax of $env. Same with the thread pool. Because we have several applications, configuring the thread pool is very important to tell that application when it plan a service, it will go to this pool, and this pool is used by this other application. So we have the default pool, the API pool, the the back office pool, and we can configure the number of threads of the application to be used. In case of API, we have several engines with different URL for the authentication, the server to call, and the credentials to be stored. Those ones are configured here in the service engine. And to make it possible, like I said, we try to contribute it to the community a long time ago, but the effort was not concluded. There is a Jira if you want to go to see the modification of the framework that allow this kind of configuration. We use it daily in our production since 10 years, I guess. No, maybe a little less. But it's very working, and we are happy with it for now. Another pain point we have is about ActiveMQ configuration. I'm not proud of it at all, but it's working. With this hack, I managed to create an initial context to pass to Apache Ofbiz to give the information to ActiveMQ library to where you have to connect, etc. With which info, which topic to connect, etc. I didn't find any proper way to do it with environment variable, but this hack, and I'm not very fan of it, but it's working, so for now, it's okay. Yes?
ActiveMQ is used for caching, but I don't understand how it's used for caching.
Yes, ActiveMQ is Java Messenger services, so
Okay.
you put a message in it, and on the other side, those who are recording in it receive it and do something. What kind of message Apache Ofbiz send it to it? It send, please clean the caches of this entity. These caches into parentheses. So what happens, how does Ofbiz work with caches? When you make a request to the database and you put it in cache, so you redo the same request. Instead of going to the database, you go to the cache. So it will be quick, and do not go to the database, etc. Great. But if one of the Ofbiz modify the entity that is cached, it will say to all of the others, this entity has moved, please clean your cache. So send the message to the GMS. Every Ofbiz received it. Okay, we clean the cache. So now, next time we need the info for the order reader, for example. Not this, it's a bad example, it's never cached. But for party attribute, party identification, I will go to the database one time and re-put it in cache, and it's okay.
But why did you use ActiveMQ and not a specialized cache system like Redis, for example?
Because it's already in Apache Ofbiz and working like that. There was a documentation in it, so we used to use it. But I'm open to discuss about any ideas, but for now we took it, Apache Ofbiz, as it was, and did not have the experience for other cache systems for now. But we can discuss about it. Yes. Another question? Okay. So, with script cluster home, there is no more git config branch, so it will make it more simple for your Jenkins to make the job. So we still continue to test. We still continue to make the deployment artifact, the D-star. And then we will ask our Jenkins to build a Docker image with the Docker file I showed you just before pushing into the Google Artifact repository. That was the requirement of the customer. Then Jenkins will commit the new revision, the tag of the image, to be used in Kubernetes Flux system. So when you construct your Docker image, you push a tag with it into the repository, so it is identified. And Kubernetes Flux system, if you don't know, and define what image should be used for this deployment. So if the value change, what happens? Kubernetes detects the new revision and automatically will try to start the new Docker image and wait for him to be alive and shut down the other. So there is a lot of way to deploy, but that's the one we did. But for start and stop, we needed liveness probes to make Kubernetes aware that an application, or of this application, is alive. Because without that, you can do the deployment. You cannot do the deployment. So for the liveness, we add a specific endpoint because ping is not enough. We created a request that do not need authentication or visit tracking to avoid polluting visit table, etc. Because this probe will be asked every second or so it's very intense one. And this endpoint will test the database connection and we'll test that the GMS, the ActiveMQ queue, is accessible. And if everything is alright, if we are able to connect to the database, create a testing record and deleting it just after, with success, and the Java messaging service is accessible and okay, then we send back the success code to 2000, and Kubernetes is okay, the application is alive. Okay, sorry. We also use this request to display some specific information as a user when you go to the application and you use this request. I don't know if you see it well, but it gives them some information, which instance I'm on it, because with that I can use Kubernetes tools to go connect to the application and see the files that are in it if I want to check something. If I adapt or if I want to debug the application using port forward or something like that. With these instances here, I can select the application with KM9S and do the things. And for pre-production, we list the branches that are in QA directly using this specific endpoint. It's only file reading, so it's very simple. So it has a very low cost. And with the parameter, these endpoints show also more functional test results that are used by the Kube alert system. And if one of the functional tests is in failure, an alert is sent to our chat to tell there is something wrong, please have a check, etc. And you can see some kind of test that no job, every job is planned, no service is failed, there is no late service flow, file flow detected, etc., etc. And we use this probe to make more than only the liveliness. So I wanted to share it with you. Another issue, it makes you laugh because it's an issue we have. When Kubernetes detects that an application is dead, what Kubernetes do is killing it directly. But when an Ofbiz instance is running some jobs and you kill it, it might be still running some jobs, and it will be restarting it and see the job was running, try to plan it again, and etc. So it creates some confusion, might have consequences that is not wanted. So we need to find a solution about that. We must not kill an application that is running some job. A job is the back office services that need some time to be terminated. So, what tools we have in Kubernetes to do that? We have something called a pre-stop script. It's a script that is launched when Kubernetes tries to terminate a pod. A pod is an instance of an application which contains the Docker image. So it's equivalent to the virtual server, if you want, to be simple. And Kubernetes say, your status is terminating, let's start, we will shut you down. First step, Kube start with a grace period. It's a time. It's a time I will wait before killing you. So I send the termination message, and about at the end of the grace period, maybe 30 seconds, maybe more, application is terminated, is killed. Okay, and first thing, every flows that went to the pod that is terminating are stopped. So we cut the flows. Nothing more go on this pod that is terminating. So during this time, we launch the pre-stop script that will insert a job lock for this application that is terminating to prevent her to take new job. Because she is stopping, please finish your job, do not take more, you will stop, it will be fine. We wait, polling every 6 seconds that current running job are terminating or not. If jobs are still running, closing the grace period end, it's a bit too long for terminate this job. So what do? We identify the running job. We plan them again with the R prefix to let us know that it's Kubernetes who planned again a job. It's not the normal case, it's the exception case to not close the running job, etc. And then comes the same job, same service. Okay. So if running job was running by this pod and this job had a semaphore, since we are killing it, we are deleting every semaphore for this instance. And we move every queued job to the pending status. Because we put in memory, yes. Yes, je peux. Non, je ne suis plus sur la conf. Sorry. With that done, we are in a clean state. We cannot shut down the pod, and a new one will start again and take over. What to improve now? The configuration was quite complicated and is based on specifics in we have for this project. So there might be something to be done on the config system to allow anyone using Ofbiz trunk or release to make the configuration easy for Kubernetes deployment or container Docker deployment. Yes, Gaëtan?
Yeah, with what you showed us earlier, the slide before, there is still an issue that is to solve. It is, for example, with how Kubernetes handles memory, which is he sets a hard limit, and if an instance takes more than this limit, he shuts down the pod. So if an instance is taking a job that is growing in memory, it can bypass it. So let's say you have an instance, you set it to 8 gigabytes of RAM. The job will take a lot of data in and reach the 8 giga limit. Kubernetes will kill it, so it will kill the instance. It will replan the job, so put an R in front of it, like Gilles said. But the next iteration will not be able to run this job because it will still take more than 8 GB. And so on and so on. And we had cases with 10, 15 or 20 R in front of the job name. Because currently we are not able to detect this kind of cases.
As you clear out memory of the pod.
It's not enough because, for example, some users are making big exports with a lot of data and maybe exporting 20 or 30,000 commands orders, and the instances are not dimensioned for this kind of data. So currently, we don't have a way to prevent this behavior.
Yes.
Don't you increase the limits? We could, but on the current setup, expensive, let's say.
Yes and no. In fact, I did not mention it because it is an issue. We don't have the reason and the explaining why. It happens sometimes, and we don't understand why the memory go over the maximum of the JVM information configuration we did. So we go further, and I don't know if there is a limit or not. Maybe putting 4 gigabytes more and more we won't solve. I don't know if it's une fuite, a leak, a memory leak or not. So this problem happens one or three times, I guess. And we don't have the solution apart from detecting the job and killing it ourselves into to the database. But within infra, there is still something we do not understand in it, and even the hosting company do not understand why it happens. So for this specific case, it's not clear for me what to do. It's more than a Kubernetes issue or Java issue, but yes, it's a good point, and I hope it won't happen very often, but
For me, increase the capacity of the infrastructure without understand why is the better way to not understand what the system do. If it's a reality that we need to increase because the data is really huge, okay, but maybe it's a problem of the code. We have a problem of memory, we can optimize. It's better to optimize. In the case that explained by Gaëtan, analyze with the code brain and detect that we can change the code and bypass this issue without changing anything on the infrastructure. So we prefer change the configuration of the infrastructure really with pragmatic.
Even if with some profiling of the application, you could not able to detect why a service takes so that amount of data.
it could be possible. It's just about the time we gave us to analyze why a guy want to export all the database in one export is causing this problem. The simplest way to solve it is to tell the guy, do not do that, please. It's not a good way to export everything from the front office. You have tools to get the data elsewhere that are meant to be used like that. Please do not destroy with bad usage of the application. It was less cost for the customer instead of us starting to take several hours, days to analyze this kind of behavior. But yes, it would be an interesting way to solve the thing. But yes.
Yeah, because I say that because we had in the past issue with some scheduled services that send the instance to the machine, the virtual machine we were not using Docker yet to an out of memory, and we were talking about 32 gigabyte machine of RAM. You know, the service was the shopping list service, the auto remove shopping list. We had a huge entity because an issue that we solved after, and the service loading to memory all the entity, and of course it was an out of memory, and with the profiling we were able to understand which was the service, and restarting the instance was not the solution because the service was rescheduled as since we and
Yes.
anytime the service restarted, they put the machine in out of memory status. So when that was a code problem, then after we had some issue when we moved to the Docker instances, and for some reason an instance with very low traffic, very low, in our opinion, movement goes out of memory with configuring the limit in the Docker compose file. But I think that the major issue for that was that we were using the Java 8 version that was not fully aware of all the Docker stuff. So basically the Docker image was not able to see the limits, and it always see all the memory, the machine RAM. So.
I see your Docker file and you use Alpine with Temurin. Have you some problem with Alpine or not? Because we use Ubuntu because we are quite
generates huge images.
Yeah, but the image size is very big.
Alpine was chosen and asked by our hosting partner because it's far more little, etc. Just for this best practice.
Yeah.
And we didn't met any issue with that for now. So at the start we wanted, because we are Debian guys, using the Debian image, but they said no, Alpine is better because it's a...
You don't have any kind of problem with Alpine in production?
No. What kind of problem do you imagine?
Because early version of maybe, I don't know, Java 8 or 9 have some problem with Alpine because Alpine doesn't use the standard libc, but they use muscle library for a different C library, and so I think the early version of Java, not early, 8 version of Java have some problem with this kind of some kind of distribution like Alpine due to this use of C library for the distribution. But if you don't have any problem, no. Okay.
Which Java version do you use?
Please let me...
17.
17 years.
17. With this project, 17.
And we try to move all the version to 17.
Yeah.
To be very nice.
Our customer quite understand the value to be up to date with the community. So we migrate every 1 or 2 years. The first one were a very big migration, but now we are used to it. We do the dev the good way. It might be another subject to present because it's important to make integration of an application compatible with updating the framework easily. Because it's something very important for the project to follow the trunk or follow the releases to get the security fix and feature improvements, and to allow the integrator to contribute easily the improvements on the other side. So it's quite important. And that's why we are on a recent Java version. Okay. So what to improve? The config system. Like we saw, we have specific development to our framework code. So it would be a good idea to find something that is included into the code base and the framework code base. We have something prepared for that, and we will talk about it in another talk. The ActiveMQ implementation might be a nice thing to be reviewed to ease the configuration. I'm very not fond of what we have done to allow configuration with of variable, and it's something I guess it might have a look. And if you have question, well, please feel free.
No more question. Thank you.
Perfect.
Bonne forme.
Thank you. hope so. It's a new term we did it, so we will need some rework on it, but I hope it will be good. Oui.
Yeah, we test the sound.
T'es bas. Tu entends bien Gilles et toi
Okay, it's better now.
Okay.
How do you go to Kubernetes?
I didn't show the Kubernetes part, but
Ouais, c'est un peu
I
mieux.
can show it if you want.
we continue just with the tickets, load balancing, Decathlon case, how to specific Ofbiz manage instance. Gilles present the global structure, but we can focus on exactly how it works. I just write the scheme. Response, API, two instances, minimum of each. We have the database, two technical or more, and we have also Hack, Office, two instances. So each we have to see that depend of the ask for the clients, go back to the front or go back to the API. If the system is oriented on the API, otherwise is oriented on the front. Is each of these manage the request, and if some big jobs or the order need a lot of works apply, they put in on the database, and the technical takes the big work. Is for the API, typically, some request is to confirm the order, and this is quite a many operation in Ofbiz because it's big, or we need to respond under 20 milliseconds. So Ofbiz don't have the time to create all the movement and response. So we receive the message, Ofbiz check all it's okay. If it's okay, response okay, I will do the job, and you store it on the database for the technical. To do this, after we use services, and we have the puller. We have a technical puller. And we have a pullback like this. When a front or API want to propage a job, it can send to the technical pool or on the back pool, because this is for low level job with few operations. You need to be quick and 10 seconds max. And this is for each job, like export, PDF generation, and some job can run for 1 hour or more, because we have each data. So you use the job sandbox system to mix the volumetry, and the front and the API send depends the services to run to each purpose. You have question on it? We have it.
Yes. And go to configuration. There is two ways to configure the job to go to technical or to back office. Is by default an application is configured into the service engine with the send to pull. You can say by default every job generated by API will send to pull, but one specific job into the service definition you can have a send to pull overload to tell for the job generate report, il aura le send to pull qui sera sur le pullback, on the pullback.
This is an improvement from the rail. It's not out of the box in Ofbiz.
Yeah.
Okay. So this will allow to filter and to identify which big job, more than 1 hour or something like that, will go into the back office and do not pollute the queue of little very important jumps that will be done by technical.
Because the problem, if you have here to understand the configuration, technical authorized 10, I think it's 10 thread. Sorry. So if you have 300 jobs to run, because we have a big activity at a few times, and on the 10 thread we have 5 exports. They blocked 5 threads to be fast. So we need to wait for the small services that the big thread have finished. So it's the reason that we send to the back specifically some big treatment to don't saturate the technical part. And like this, we can manage on the front on the API, we can have a peak with 10,000 orders by day. With peak with China part on the morning. And the technical take all the charge and dedicate to the back office the big treatments that can disturb it. Okay. So all this part is present on the configuration. So when we push on the Kubernetes each image, we have the configuration of the different pool to use and the thread auto-write, because technical have more threads than back office, because you need to go faster than it. No question?
How do you monitor all the threads you have on each instances? And, how do you monitor how many pods you have? How does it auto-scale?
Yes, we have une sonde. We have a probe on Grafana.
I can
By
answer that if you want.
yes, go.
Bureau, I don't know if I have the origin anymore. Basically, there is a prod. We implemented the Prometheus container in which monitors the number of jobs that are queued and planned. And we have 300 jobs planned, I think. It triggers another instance. And if we go under 300, the extra instance stops.
Always 2 minimum.
Yeah, 2 minimum and 4 maximum, I think.
Yeah. It's easily configurable within Kubernetes system, so you can change the value as you want.
You can set the limit as you want.
For the front, it's the same.
Front
Front can be, yeah. For now, it's only technical and installation in back office which are scaled.
Share the screen.
Yes, I share the screen.
Both, moyen. Ah,
Ouais.
moyen. Share screen moyen.
Moyen.
Yes, it's a bit
No,
private.
just-
You can see that 2 hours ago there is a big peak of 20,000 jobs pending. So the HPR, I don't remember the acronym, but
Autoscaling pod et something.
voilà.
Horizontal pod autoscaling.
Yes, this side did make the pod go to 4 instances to consume quickly the pending pod, the pending jobs. Sorry, and it's cultural into Grafana and hosting company that the rule to apply is this one. It's in French, sorry, but it's quite complicated and we need to. The target of the number of replica, it's the number of actual replica multiplied by the service pending number within the pod divided by the target of the service pending. This formula will calculate the target of the number of the replica. So with moving the
Number of jobs.
the number of jobs we want by pods, it will automatically go up the number of the replica to the pod. And to show you, if you want to see there is Grafana exporter within the pods. So it's not our part, as an integrator, but it's the infra part.
What Gilles is going to show here is Kubernetes and Grafana standard.
And the database.
So this is vanilla. We didn't have. We could if we wanted to. I made a small contribution for Prometheus exporter for custom metrics if needed that we can send to Grafana. But all of this is standard.
So you can see the activity of the database with the memory use, the swap. It's not good to swap.
You can show CPU as well.
CPU is here.
For database, but you can show.
Yeah. To the dashboard. And
The namespaces. And production, namespace production. And with that, you can monitor your instances resources, your instance resources. Ta-da!
okay.
Maybe you can expand restart recently?
There it is.
Yes, restarts.
There is 2 restarts today.
That's what I said earlier. Gilles, tu remontes au niveau de la RAM. On the bottom left right chart, you can see RAM spikes. And in these cases, Kubernetes shoots the pods that exceed their RAM memory. So these 2 points, these 2 dots are restarts. Maybe probably due to the exports.
One try. Yeah. So the limit is to 16 gigabytes. And we don't get to 16, I don't understand why it restarted.
So you don't have found yet what specific service or job
No.
caused that peak?
We know the service that causes that kind of peak.
Yeah.
It's a job, so we have who launched the things, what is the thing, what are the parameters of things, so we can reproduce and we can investigate as we.
But with a learning curve with Grafana, it would be possible to have this kind of data, but the number of job A and job B by time with the good export. It's, with the probe, the custom probe, it will be completely possible.
Florian, did we ask your first question? I'm not sure. Yes. Okay. No other question?
No more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for the subject.
Est-ce que tu penses?
Ouais.
Ok.
Mon cher. Okay, to finish on this subject, the first I can present the current reflection on the configuration of Ofbiz. The reflection is understand how we put the configuration, how it works at this time. After all feedback that we have and different experience, what we try, what will works, and what we try as the proof of concept now. So, if we can start quickly, the configuration in Ofbiz is mainly used by XML customer, custom XML. We have XSD, specific XSD for the configuration, for entity engine, service engine, for the Ofbiz component, and for the XM1, with dedicated Java classes. We will show you just after. We have the Java properties, it's easier to manage, and some properties directly on the system properties that override the configuration. First, I said return to the future because from long time we try to use different systems to configure Ofbiz. Before Docker, and now with Docker we have Docker and system like this. We have a new difficulty for the configuration because the code didn't change. So previously we used mainly by patch. So you have your Ofbiz, you create your configuration patch and you apply it just before run. Or you directly commit your configuration on your base code. This works, but this can work with a system with different Dockers. And typically, currently, this can work because the pull technical or the pullback is not the same, so you can't use the same image of Ofbiz with different configuration. Something like that works also is create plugins with only the configuration that you need to override. This works also, but for the properties, but not for the XML. because the XML have difficulties that I will explain after. So all these different cases is really uncomfortable because each time we have blocked by a situation that we discover in production. So we try different methods, but not is really perfect. How do you configure from your side the Ofbiz?
Properties
And XML.
and XML.
Directly on the code base?
Yeah.
In this case, how do you separate prod from pre-prod? Production from pre-production?
We have all production, basically, we keep it simple.
You don't.
And we use volumes to separate configuration for each instance, basically. Since we use different instances because we have different customers.
Okay.
We have different instances of this. So basically we have application customer 1, application customer 2, and those are specific of these instances. And we use volumes to separate configuration.
And you have an instance that is for pre-prod customer.
Yeah, for test and for production. Okay. And the configuration file are stored in a specific volume. So
Okay.
we don't use for Ofbiz any AC automatically deployed.
Okay.
So, like Gilles presented previously, we try to use the massively the environment variable. So you inject your configuration directly on the system and you raise it after through the this up issue that we are open. Not this, the other. Voilà. This issue is open since a long time ago and offer to the possibility to set different configuration with environment variable, and you push it on your bash shell context. Like this is available by Ofbiz. This works, is pretty fine. The problem, we need to change a lot of code in Ofbiz due to the XML. So maybe we can do more. I start a reflection to refactor the config system to keep in mind the backward compatibility and to have as Aslan the possibility to have all the configuration in one file. So from the remark of Steve, I think, on this issue, configure Ofbiz for the container, Jürgen Stan suggests to use another system like a standard library. So I take the inspiration and we try to use the lightben config is the standard Java library that you can inject a soft configuration, and when you ask for a configuration, she will give you the result. It's quite simple, but it's not quite simple. It's connect to Ofbiz. Because lightben configs use Ocon files. I don't know if you know what is Ocon file. It's just JSON for human. So the JSON format is readable by human. So it's interesting. And after we need to connect all the Ofbiz system as an interface to have this configuration. So I push some configuration in Ofbiz, and Liben need to interact with Ofbiz when I ask for a configuration. The problem massively is how Ofbiz works. How Ofbiz currently works with the dedicated Java files as a search parser. So when you ask a configuration, you go directly on the file, put it in memory, and give you the result. So Liben config have never the access to this configuration, and the problem is if I want to surcharge a value in Ofbiz, instead modify directly the files, because the function of Ofbiz to read all as search parser, I need to have the possibility to say, okay, this is the value with a pathway for the value, and I search it on another way. Typically, the example, if you say that I need to know what files I will search and a pathway to find the value. I go back. No. Up. Like here. The reason that during the implementation we imagine to remove the sax reader to an XPath parser. Like this, each position in my file I can have the way, and I can reproduce it on Ashcan system. If we check Ofbiz, this is up like this. Okay. Here we have entity config classes. Is the main class to load the entity configuration in memory. If you check, he found the file by an child Java class, and he searched the XML configuration for this. So you can have only one configuration for the entity engine, and she's always on entity config place. And after that, you read the XML document and load all in memory. So you can't interrupt this to search something. It's the reason that on the first try, we improved the reader to say if you see $bracket, if env 2 points, go on the environment variable. But you need on each file put a specific value for the connect the environment variable and the Ofbiz configuration. With the process of concept, we tried. We have an XPath. We init an XPath, and we start. We currently read entity config. So you have entity config on the XPath. And after, okay, I load always my file. I read always my file. But after, I use a new interface who who loads the file as XML file on the tree of configuration to have always, I see, show you, always an XPath available. I go to the configuration, I said give me the child for this configuration, and it's an XML configuration. So it creates an XPath with that. Oh, sorry, it's an interface. So non, j'ai pas les mêmes configs que toi.
J'ai pensé aussi, ouais.
Il dit Max User.
Ouais. Ah putain, j'ai le retour qui me fait mal. Don't forget. So, you see, we put the parent XPath, he go to the child, he identifies the XPath, creates it during the read, and after we do the same for the hashcode. Like this, when the hashcode is read by Lightbane, we have the same, and we can do. There is a surcharge of the configuration. Hop, if I go to entity config, the problem is that we have a lot of config change. If you see, this is generate completely new logical. So there is a lot of change on the code base because we remove all. First, we remove all sax parser, and also we implement each specific Ofbiz element Java class by the configuration interface. Because the configuration interface said to an object, to an element, give me your unique ID to know you, give me your XPath to know you. Like this, we can deploy Ocon files with Lightbane. You can change nothing in Ofbiz. You take the framework, you take your plugin with your Ocon files of the configuration, and you will change typically like this on the entity engine. Entity config is XML structures. Delegator default, use group map, local Postgres for directly. You are actually on the Ofbiz, the default value is local derby. Like this, you just say, for the default, I use local Postgres. And if I continue on the data source, you can say for the inline JDBC, put directly your value on the JDBC. This is an example to understand how Ofbiz can be override with the Ocon structures and the Lightbane config library. But like his Ocon, you directly can put your on variable value, like we did for the previous project. So instead to inject the value on the config files from on the code base of the framework, you can change nothing on the framework, and your plugins, you can put here your value to connect it to the Docker system or something like that for retrieve the secret or another. Currently, I don't have the time to push it on the community because I need to test more. I need to continue the works, but all is available on the public platform from Nerid Labs. If you want to try and compare what we tried. And the next step for this, I wish to continue to test, to try some case that the configuration missing. And after, we want to also have an interface to see what configuration, what the origin of the configuration, and maybe manage directly from the interface. So we need to continue to work on it. And the second way, I need to be sure that there is no problem for the old configuration. You can override all with Ofbiz with the Hashcode definition, but I will to be sure that you can continue to use the standard method. That's all. Question?
Can you specify a dynamic location where you put the configuration in that library? And for example, if I want to put the configuration file in the runtime directory.
I spell back. You want to, at the runtime, inject some configuration?
Yeah.
If you inject some configuration, I think you override the property file, like a property file.
Yeah, like for example, if I want to change a property at runtime when Ofbiz runs.
Yes, for that you need with the improvement.
Yeah.
You need to call lightbyte config to say for this configuration I have a new value, clear your cache, and like this when Ofbiz asks for the configuration, he asks the interface. Lightbyte config say, oh, I have the configuration override, take it. In the system, when Ofbiz asks, all the configuration pass through the interface. Lightbyte config see the way, the path of the configuration need. If in XML you have the XPath, but work also for properties files. And if Lightbyte have the configuration, he said, okay, I have the override configuration, so take it first. If we don't found, continue with the standard part. So ask the XML file or go to the delegator and so on. Okay.